and to be able to capture risk at this point, because Bitcoin is still in its infant stages, no matter what anybody out there is saying, it truly is still in its infant stages. So anybody participating in it can truly capture an incredible amount of risk, which can be turned into generational wealth. That's one to think about. So hashtag love all, serve others. Welcome back to Satoshi Economy, Bitcoin, and peer-to-peer financial empowerment. Hi, my name's Ron, and I'm a Bitcoin evangelist, a sovereign pleb, and an autodidact of true health and wealth. Hashtag love all, serve others. Why are we talking Bitcoin? To discuss it, I did a little thought experiment. I wrote down a bunch of topics, which were the past, fractional reserve banking, and how that kind of morphed into central banking or the centralization of monetary designs, which also incorporated intentionally the design of inflation. And also we saw the true weaponization of war, whereby that type of monetary design, the notion of funding a war was no problem. They could just invent or create new monies that had never been spent before into the air, into the economy, which could then be spent by choice by those who had the centralization opportunity of the power of choice to direct whatever agendas and directives. So it's Ron Paul is credited with saying it's no coincidence that the 20th century was the century of central banking and of world war. And it caused me to think, what is the most profitable? Also, what is the most costly? If something costs a lot of money, then by payment to take care of that cost, someone is on the other, the receiving end of that. And I wonder if war as an industry, as sadistic as that sounds, is really the most profitable notion of industry ever created. And I think it probably is. And I think there's a pattern of propaganda and profits. When we think about what is net neutrality, and we think about the diminishment or the practical lack of open argument, open discussion, social discourse, there's practically no live audiences where this is encouraged. Our forefathers who designed up the Constitution had in there that there should be boisterous debate allowed. Because when someone has deep convictions about something, of course, that involves emotion, and there ought to be allowed even boisterous debate. And even on the border of if it disrespects someone. But that kind of boisterous debate we just don't see on polarizing subjects, which really is healthy in an open and free society. And I think it's really a hallmark of a free society to have open and free and even boisterous debate on polarizing subjects. It ought to be wide open. And that's one thing that is a reason why we are talking Bitcoin, because it represents an open and free digital monetary network where there is the opportunity and the playing field for open and creative design. I thought of the mogul media, or the notion of just a few who control a lot of the media, and also the notion that if you say something, even if it's wrong, or even if it's a lie, or even if it's untrue, if you say something like that enough times, a lot of people will end up believing that that is what the truth is. You just got to keep repeating it. So the reason why we even have a potential for a one world government or a one world order, which I can remember Papa George talking about in some of his presidential speeches, is because of the harnessing of light power in the form of digital networks, obviously the internet. And we have, I recently did a little bit of study on the internet and coding, and how that really, at one point, the coding was classified as a munition within the borders of the US. The export of code was considered illegal, and there were people who challenged that. And a great way that they challenged it, they put out t-shirts that had code written on it, as if to say that someone walking around with a meme on their shirt is illegal. It was a very good way of presenting the argument, but in the end, code was declassified as being illegal. It was protected as a free speech right. So that was very, very interesting because Bitcoin is code. So when I think of why are we talking about Bitcoin, a big reason is that because it represents a open and free and creative expression. And of course, it specifically has to do with money and monetary design, which of course is the most ubiquitous or it has the most amount of total power. It has the most amount of effect. I mean, money, we need it to take care, to buy, to purchase food, clothing, and shelter. For the most part, I mean, some people get that gifted to them, but for the most part, money is the most important physical thing that is the most important to the greatest amount of people, to the greatest number of people. So that is why we're talking Bitcoin. That is why it does receive a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That is why there is a lot of detractors. In the exact same way as a lot of people when the bicycle came out were against it. A lot of people when electricity came out, they were against it. A lot of people when the airplane came out were against it. A lot of people when the computer, the internet, all those things. A lot of people were against it. I remember reading one article that said, one guy even said, computers will never catch on because we only need one computer per city. Let's see, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 different types of computers right within arm's reach of me, and there's many more in my residence. Look, I just simply encourage you to consider it. Of course, you know what's best for your own financial world. At the same time, this represents, because of its integration into a digital monetary network, which is truly global, it enables jockeying for power. It's up for anybody to grab, so to speak, in the world. But as far as the monetary network, as far as monetary designs in that world, the wars have truly gone from a militaristic into a technological form of war. And it's a very, very important thing. Money is being disrupted. It is being transformed before our eyes. It's one reason why, even after 2 decades of so many people, statisticians, historians, economists, financial experts, prime ministers, princes, presidents, even bankers, they have been warning that there is a crash coming. There is obviously, in my estimation, will be the largest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. This is an infinity opportunity. It's one that I strongly encourage you to consider Bitcoin, because it does represent a digital monetary real estate. They're not making any more land, and to be able to capture risk at this point, because Bitcoin is still in its infant stages, no matter what anybody out there is saying, it truly is still in its infant stages. So anybody participating in it can truly capture an incredible amount of risk, which can be turned into generational wealth. That's one to think about. So hashtag love all, serve others. I wish you well. I wish you wealth. I wish you health. And until next time, peace.